a little baby Yoda. Here's my pattern. And again, I took my pattern and I put it on parchment paper or tracing paper because I want to get the face right exactly where it goes. And I have made one here with the face on it. I already have it embroidered on there. Now I just have to put this on here, match up the eyes and mouth, pin it down, see, you can still see the mouth is in the right spot. And then I just cut him out. Now I sent you the pattern so you can make more. I also sent you one all cut out, just like I always do. I'm going to cut around his fingers because he only has 3 fingers. You have to cut around them. Sometimes it's easier to go a different angle. And the thing you're going to notice if you cut fleece is, and that's what this is on, is fleece. The thing you're going to notice with that is that fleece stretches. Sometimes it stretches the way you want it to. Sometimes it stretches in a different way completely. And gives you a lot of trouble. All right. Here's the other side of him. Let's go in this way. Doesn't matter, I'm going to have to make a hard cut here. Get down around his belly. And right to his feet. Let's come in this way for the feet. And then I'm going to cut just kind of loose around his feet. Then I'll come back and get all the specifics. All right, gathered up to there. Now you see how this didn't quite cut off, so I have to go back and I have to trim that off to make sure that it works great. Sometimes a smaller scissors works better. Sometimes it doesn't too. We'll trim around his hand. Go. All right. With this guy, now that we've got him cut out, notice how he doesn't necessarily always match. So let's pin him together, and this time I'm going to use the good sides out. Just pin him together. Get right down here. It's going to take quite a few pins. And make sure you've got both of them stuck together good. Sometimes this stuff stretches so much, it's scary. Get his feet. Go back to the top, get his head lined up. We're going to do this one just the opposite of how we did the pillows. Instead of turning him inside out, we're going to just sew him and leave an edge. Now you can't leave an edge with most materials, but when you use fleece, it doesn't ravel. It stretches, but it doesn't ravel. So let's get him pinned together. Now, we're going to need a place to stuff him together. You can do that any place you'd like. You want it someplace that's going to be easy enough to do. Didn't quite match up, just trim it off. I'm thinking maybe right here. So let's pin it, and then let's mark that we're not going to do it there, okay? We're not going to sew between these 2 pins. Everything else we're going to sew down. So let's just start at that pin. And we're going to sew up. I'm going to leave about, such a little bitty fine line. Can you see how little a line I've got on here? That much, about that much, all the way around. And you got to make sure you get both sides of it. So right out and get his finger. Leave that in place. Spin it. That thread's bothering me, so I'm just going to cut it off. Now's a good time to talk about thread color. You can use any color thread you want. I'm using white just because I like to. If you want to use green and make it match, that would be perfect here too. Just go slow and stitch it down. Make sure you get both sides. Doesn't necessarily matter exactly if they're the very exact shape and the right amount of space, but it does matter that you catch both sides. All right, now we're going right up to under his neck. I gotta pull the pin out, because if you don't pull the pin out, you break your machine. Under his neck, and you leave it in place. Now I'm going to go down around his ear. Now as I'm doing this, one of these is stretching. But it's okay because I can always trim it off. The one underneath is stretching out. It looks like it's twice as big as the other one. And then I'm going to spin it back this way. So like I said, right here you can see this is too much. But I can always trim that off. Okay? So we won't even worry about it. And we come right down here. Make sure we're getting both. Usually when it feels like it's going really smooth, that's when you're not getting both. And turn that like that. And there we go again. Right out to the tip. Make sure you get both. And put that down. May as well move it right now. Down around his ear. Ooh, I stuck one in there to hide. Make it hard for me. And then this one. Technique of just leave the needle in there and then just spin the material works really good. You just have to have everything right where you want it. These fingers are hard. I didn't really think about them being as hard as they are, so take your time, stretch out the material, and they don't have to be perfect. And then go back. But the material's kind of stretchy on me. I wasn't really expecting to be quite that stretchy. I remember making those made for Lyra and the 2-year-old, and yeah, they did that. I remember it now. And then come back this way. Ow. I sure do poke myself a lot anymore. When I'm making stuffed animals, I always do. And then his belly comes out like this. All right, now the feet have been hard all along. Let's look at these feet. I need 1, 2, 3 toes and then goes up like that. So let's see if we can do that. one toe, clear back. And that toe got meshed when I sewed that. I don't think I'm going to get 3. He's got 2 toes. We'll go with that. And then bring it up here to what I guess you'd have to say is his butt. And pull this one out. Actually, it's looking pretty good. Just don't have all the details. All right, and there is one toe. And turn it backwards. And get a second toe. Adjust my material. 2 toes. Turn it backwards. And go for that 3rd toe. I think so. And then we got 3 toes. Turn it, come up the belly. And we're to our pin where we said we weren't going to sew to. So I'm going to pull that pin out. Sew right up to it. And stop. I'm going to pull this one out too because I'm tired of getting poked by it. But I'm just going to flip this over and I'm going to sew the whole thing on the other side now. This side looked fine. I'd caught the material every place. So if I get it to do the same thing on this side, we'll have it with both sides. Okay. Where was my hole? There's my hole. So start right here. Start right here on the flip side. And sew it right in place. These toes are a real hassle, aren't they? We're going to make them a little rounder. We'll come back. And just go all the way around it again. Any place that it didn't stick, or you didn't get the thread all the way through or catch both of them, now's your time to fix that because you're on the opposite side now so you can see it. Any place it does like that with little gobs of thread, that we're just going to trim that off. All right, now he looks like this. So we can just go and trim right up next to where that seam is. Don't go through the seam or you'll have a hole in him. Right up next to it. This is why people like to leave all the seams on the inside too, is then if it does one of those, it doesn't show up. Just trim it off. Make them so they're both the same now. And you continue doing that all the way around him. Just got to be really careful you don't cut through. That's your spot where you're going to stuff him. Get down around his feet. Trim off all the extra. And now we can give him 3 toes if we want, or just 2 nice ones. I'm just going to kind of round them off. gonna round those guys off too. Takes a little time, but basically anything you do with this is going to take some time. So once you get it so he's pretty well sewn together, you take this little hole here and you start stuffing him full of stuffing. Don't use too big or you'll never get it to work. And we're just going to put it in here, get his feet. I'm not going to pack it real tight. I'm going to let him be nice and squishy and soft. And then we're going to do the other foot. It's tempting to put a great big chunk in, but it doesn't work. You just have to take it slow. Then I like to go to the ears next because they're going to be a problem. My sewing machine was messing up on me, so the seam didn't come out very nice. But it should hold. Just doesn't look very good. Sometimes the machines just do that. It's like they'll work fine with fleece, they'll work fine with fleece, and then all of a sudden they just rebel. All right, and then do the other ear. You see, as I'm sticking that in there, you can kind of shape him in many ways. All right, I got both feet, both ears. Better get the hands. Might have to take this little thing that comes with it and poke some in there. All right, and we have one right here. We've got to get stuffed. Now notice I didn't have to turn him inside out because we're already there. Notice that now that my sewing machine messed up, you can see every seam that looks bad too. It just leaves little artifacts and extra bumps. And I'll trim off as many as I can, but it still doesn't look as nice. So on the pillows going inside out really works better. All right, we're getting close. He needs a little more in his head. And then we need some more in his belly, and we're just about done. Then you want to move that stuffing around so they're shaped right. And in this case, we're going to use the sewing machine to stitch him up here. Because we put our seam on the outside, we just put the stuffing in here. You want to stick all the stuffing back in as far in there as you can. That way it'll be as flat as it can go. And then put the pressure foot down and stitch him shut. And since everything else has been stitched twice, you'll want to stitch him twice too. All right, then you trim him up. And he's all done.